Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today I'm talking with Taylor Thompson. He does some Airbnb arbitrage, a little bit of house hacking, and manages short term rentals all across the Front Range in Colorado Springs, Denver, even in the mountains a little bit, and is doing some stuff in the Texas area. We're going to have a good chat about how he's operated this, when he started it. He started at a very young age, so it's going to be a really good episode, and I hope you enjoy. In real estate, first impressions can make or break a deal. Whether you're listing a home for sale or marketing an investment property, having high quality photos are key at grabbing attention. If you want to stand out in the competitive Colorado Springs market, having high quality photos is essential. And Wayne over at Hamadi excels at getting the best possible photos for your property. He is based right here in Colorado Springs and specializes in capturing properties in the best light. If you're ready to take your property photos to the next level, make sure to contact Wayne over at Hamadi and mention you heard about him from Tanner at Red and Joy Real Estate to get 20% off your next shoot. Remember, great photos can make the difference between a quick sale and a stale listing. So make sure to contact Wayne over at Hamadi today. Taylor, thanks for joining me on the podcast. I'm excited to have you here to talk about some real estate, short-term rental stuff. How you doing today?
Yeah, thanks, Tanner, for having me on. Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. So let's kind of start where, in the very beginning, how you kind of got into real estate and what about it attracted you to get into the field.
Yeah, we've been pursuing like financial independence through real estate for about 5 years now. Started when like I was 17, 18 years old. So right as I turned 18, plan was to buy that first house hack before I was 20. So then got into wholesaling real estate to get some experience, save up more money. So did wholesaling for a while, and then eventually bought that first property. It was like a rent by room house hack here in Denver. And then shortly after that, got my real estate license. Worked mostly with investors around the Denver market, and then eventually bought the second house hack, another rent by room property, and then
Mm.
um,
So real quick, so you went through that fast. So you were 17, 18 when you first like started looking into it. Did you read a book or how did you even hear about like real estate as being an option for an investment?
Yeah, I initially heard about real estate through Monopoly,
Oh,
which is pretty funny. And then, yeah, eventually, I think I saw like a Bigger Pockets YouTube video and watched that first one. And like most people, kind of went through the phase of, binge listening to all their podcasts, to reading their books, to their videos, to going to like the real estate meetups. So yeah, it took almost like 2 years to save up money and get like the education needed for
mhm.
that first property.
Was wholesaling your plan to get more money in order to purchase a buy and hold property?
Yeah, that was it. And then I was also like, hey, well, wholesaling seems like I'm running numbers on deals. I'm kind of going through the process. Seems like it would be a great entry into kind of this whole real estate thing. So yeah, two intentions was to save up more money through it, and then actually kind of learn the real estate business a little bit.
hmm Um, about how many wholesale deals did it take you in order to be like, okay, I have enough money to do my first down payment on my house?
Yeah, so we did like four wholesale deals. I was also a working job, also starting other endeavors as well. And so yeah, it took almost 2 years to save up that initial money for that house hack. Living with my parents at the time, so I had like pretty much no expenses, and took that to my advantage. And so I was having like a 80, 90% savings rate, and just like being a total penny pitcher, and yeah.
For wholesaling, what was your best way of finding deals and communicating with sellers?
Yeah, so the course that I bought was like teaching how to do like on-market wholesaling. So basically just finding good on-market deals, getting under contract and selling that contract. And yeah, it is actually working, but I just didn't really like the wholesaling business. So I was kind of like always dreading it. So then that's what kind of made me want to eventually look into being like a real estate agent. And I enjoyed that a lot more.
hmm What about wholesaling was so dreadful?
I mean, nothing about it's really fun, honestly. I mean, it's there's just nothing really fun about the business. It's just calling, it's analyzing so many deals. I mean, it's obviously has tremendous potential, but I think if you really dislike doing something, it just kind of makes it so much harder to actually be successful in that. So.
Hmm. So then you transition into getting your real estate license. Do you think it has been beneficial to get your license with your real estate investing? Is that something that you would say many other people should do?
Yeah, I wasn't really even intending to like represent buyers or sellers. I just like my plan was to maybe like house hack once a year. And if I'm house hacking once a year representing myself, that just kind of pays for itself. And so the only purpose why I originally got it is because I wanted to just represent myself on our own house hacks and maybe help a few buyers or sellers a year. Yeah, I worked with the FI team. It's like a investor-based team here in Denver. A lot of house hacking and stuff like that. And so it was also another great way for me just to get even more exposure to everything. And yeah.
On your first house hack, what was like the layout and structure of it? And did you add any more bedrooms and do any type of rehab to it?
Yeah, it's a four-bedroom property converted into six. Basically, the basement had an option to basically make the basement living room into one room, and then it had like a really small office. So we took the walls down and extended it farther. And so yeah, now it's six bedroom, three bathroom home. We lived in it for a little over a year. My wife and I, we lived in one of the rooms, rented out all five other ones. Started off with like the worst room, sharing bathroom with two other people. Just saving every dollar we can. And then once it came to the second house hack, we got kind of like an upgrade where we got like the master room with the private bathroom. So I was like, wow, this is
Mm-hmm.
this is feeling a little luxury.
Yeah. Did you have any issues with roommates in your first runs with anyone not paying rent or being really messy or causing problems amongst the house?
Yeah, pretty much just like one. I would say that we had to pretty much tell them to like, break the lease early, kind of came to a mutual agreement. Um, Now we've had, these rooms for over like 3 years. I'd say over the 3 years, there's probably only been like two people that we had to, talk with and try to convince them to cancel their lease early. Other than that, it's super straightforward business. It's mostly people just wanting to save money and don't spend too much time at home. And so everybody else was a great experience.
So how much did you save up for in order to get to your second house hack? And you also did rent by room in this one too, correct?
Yeah, both for rent by room. I'm not fully sure exactly how much we saved. I think we saved up around like 50,000. And once we purchased it, we like barely had any money left, so we just kind of had like the bare minimum. And then Um, both the properties were pretty move-in ready, so there wasn't really much cost other than like the down payment, and then we, had all the closing costs covered, and had the seller do like some small things on the property. So it's pretty much just the down payment that we had to pay for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so your wife, was she on board with house hacking and having roommates from the get-go? Because that's not often a very common thing. Usually it's like the wife is like, no, I definitely don't want to have roommates, especially like a bunch of guys.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's totally valid. Yeah, at the time she was transitioning into college, and so her dorm was going to be a shared room. So it's like, well, actually, this property we have a private room, so it's actually a little bit of an upgrade. So it was great timing in that, if we started off with like a nice apartment and then transitioned into having roommates, I think that would have been a lot harder. So I think the timing of moving directly from our parents' house to there instead of like college dorm rooms, it was actually a bit of a more comfortable situation. So I've got a little bit lucky with that.
If you're planning to get photos done on your next listing or rental property, don't forget to reach out to Wayne with Homani to get 20% off your next shoot.
So once you got these first two house hacks, what was your plan moving forward on scaling to another one, or moving into a different strategy?
Yeah, both of these were like, like the 3% or less interest rates, the numbers working pretty well. Then all of a sudden interest rates are double. The numbers just don't make any sense unless if you have like 9 rooms. Um, and so I was like, well, shucks, this kind of ruins my plan. My plan was like do one house hack for the next 10 years and then we'll finally have enough income to cover all of our expenses. So then I was like, well, that's not going to really work. And then I was also like, one house hack per year, just slow. It's a slow game, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to get to that classic 10K per month in cash flow, it's going to take forever. And so, I wanted to find a way to get there much quicker, while also not needing as much like capital and things like that. And so, that eventually kind of led us into rental arbitrage. And so, pretty much a year after we bought that second house hack, we got our first two rental arbitrages. And then, that was kind of our introduction to like the Airbnb space. And
What is rental arbitrage, if you could explain that for people?
yeah, basically, just subleasing a property. So, for example, you lease this apartment or house for $2,000 per month. You're going to fully furnish it. Then you're going to list it on Airbnb. The goal is to get, for example, at least 3,000 per month, and then you collect the difference on that. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of simply said, just subleasing a property to Airbnb.
And you do this primarily in Denver, or what market works best for this?
Well, at this current point, we're in Denver, Denver sub-cities, Boulder, Colorado Springs, now in Loveland. So now we've kind of grown a bit all around the state of Colorado. I would say Denver's probably like the hardest markets. Just a very saturated market in terms of these things, but with enough professional management, it still works.
Do you, since you are basically renting the property, what type of lease do you work out with the owner? And do they know that you're going to be renting it on Airbnb?
Yeah, of course. Our first two rent arbitrages were like property owners directly, and then entering 2024, we transitioned into trying to work with like big apartment complexes. And so it's more considered corporate leasing. It's kind of what the more official term for rental arbitrage. Um, and so it's pretty much a standard lease, except, it may have an addendum saying, we're allowed to sublease this property. It's not our primary residence. And you may potentially negotiate some sort of like backup plans or exit strategies, but it's pretty much your normal lease, but basically just outlines that you are allowed to sublease it.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, when you're trying to find one of these, and you're telling this to a lot of landlords, are a lot of them like, no, I don't want to be doing that, and it makes it kind of a challenge to find
Yeah, of
people?
course. Yeah, it's definitely a numbers thing. You can talk to 100 owners, and there's probably only going to be a few that's fully on board, and so it's just kind of part of the business. The thing that we like about these bigger apartment complexes is once you have that initial yes, if you want to sign up for 10 apartments or 20, you can do so, or you can sign up with a few and get more later. So we've kind of liked the apartment complexes because you just need to technically that one yes, and now you can get up to, a lot of units just through that one
Mhm.
person. Pros and cons, but yeah.
How many units do you have through like one, like in one building?
Yeah, I'd say the most that we have in one building is like 8
Mhm.
apartments, and then another one's like 6, and then all the other ones are like 1 or 2.
Do you have to budget pretty well going into winter time when you have 8 units all in one building, just because you might not get the prices that you want be wanting to get in the summertime.
Yeah, this particular business requires like a high level understanding of like money management because and like proper reserves and things like this. I would consider it a high risk business. And so, yeah, super key thing that we've really learned is making sure you have enough reserves for each unit, and then also being able to properly budget, what's going to be the cash flow versus summer and what's going to be making in winter. Oftentimes, people's rental arbitrage portfolio is losing money in the winters, so you need to be able to budget, for the next 3 months or 4 months. I'm just going to be purely losing money every month. However, the summer months will offset that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of considerations that go into it, and yeah, it's super important to really understand kind of the money management and cash flow and things like that in this particular business.
What challenges do you have like most often when you have a ton of arbitrage units that are up that cause problems on the management side?
Yeah, different units can have different problems. I mean, if you're in a complex or a home that's like having nonstop maintenance issues and like the owner or the maintenance team's like taking forever to fix those, that can create a ton of issues that are kind of outside of your control. And yeah, we've run into like kind of different issues, from getting apart and like one in like a bad location. People are worried about the location, so we've kind of learned from that. Make sure it's a good location, and then other ones, like uh, just like making sure that the complex has like good reviews. I think when you're renting from like big apartment complexes or like small landlords, there's kind of different issues that come with those. But overall, I'd say like working with the complexes and in that regard is actually been pretty great now that we've kind of pinpointed exactly who we want to rent from. We've noticed that, luxury buildings are a bit easier to work with. They have like their own on-site maintenance team. Typically, maintenance issues done 1 or 2 days. And I think it's something that we're still learning is, the specific areas, where it may not have as much demand. So I think some of the issues is maybe not generate enough revenue. Um,
Do you have like your own maintenance team and like cleaning team that you use for all of your properties, or does like the building have like oh, if there's an issue, let us know and we'll send up our maintenance guy?
yeah, I would say like 90% of maintenance issues we rely on the complexes to fix or like the landlord because that's just the agreement. Like we're not really responsible for like actual maintenance issues. If it's like some damage that I guess caused, obviously that's on us to fix. But in terms of like the appliances and just stuff like that, we don't do anything. And then we do have personal handyman mostly for like furniture stuff. I would say that's like the pretty much only thing that we actually handle. And then in terms of cleaning, yeah, we have our own cleaning team and
That seems to be like the biggest difference between arbitrage and owning the property and doing a short-term rental is the maintenance aspect. Because if anything comes up with the property that you own it, you're the one that has to pay the maintenance
yeah,
of the owner, which you can probably save a lot of costs on that
yeah.
end of having to just divert all of that to the owner of the property.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. Typically, one of our team members will literally just send an email to the complex, hey, this unit's having this problem. Typically, they show up like the same day or the day after, and it's done. So I've come to really like that aspect of it. It's quite easy. And but once you have like single family homes, I think it's a little more tricky. With apartment complexes, it's definitely easier because they have like their own on-site maintenance team that's responsible for all that. But with like these smaller landlords, sometimes they don't want to fix it or or they have to find their own person. It's just kind of like more of a process.
Do you have like you mentioned your team is you and your wife, or do you have other people that you hire out or VAs?
Yeah, we have three VAs now because we do rental arbitrage as well as managing properties, and so we have the same team to manage both, and so at this point we've outsourced all communication, so I don't communicate with guests or vendors or cleaners or maintenance. I'm kind of just like a facilitator for the VAs, and then I'm pretty involved on the sales side of everything.
Hmm. Nice. How many units do you have like
Yeah, in total right now we are at 24.
that you are managing total, including other people's, or just like your units?
Mix of everything, like our management, the two houses we own, and the arbitrage units.
Okay, that's awesome. And how old are you? You're very young to be. I mean, you started at 17, 18, so it all makes sense.
Yeah, I'm 23 now, so it's like, 5 years seems like kind of a long journey, but fortunately we started early, so yeah.
Awesome. So all these properties are in Colorado. Would you ever go into another state or another market?
Yeah, we're actually in the process of onboarding like our first two clients in Texas. I would like to, take this company to be nationwide, and so yeah, I'd love to get into different markets with different seasonality and different regulations, and just kind of diverse the portfolio more.
hmm What's the seasonality in Texas for like the high season and low season?
It's like the doesn't have it has a much longer peak season versus Colorado, or like the Denver market peak season's pretty much like May to August, so it's like really short. But for like San Antonio, it seems like from like March to um like September's like kind of seems to be more of the general peak season. So kind of like how that is, because in Colorado, you make a majority of the yearly's income just through May to August, or even June to August. Like you're gonna make majority of the yearly's money through those few months.
I feel like it's good to have if you own a bunch of short-term rentals or arbitrage units to have like offsetting markets. Like if you were all in Colorado, you could have properties like in the mountains for like wintertime skiing, and then also properties on the Front Range because people travel here for all throughout the year, but for different things. And so no one in the wintertime is coming really to like Denver or Colorado
Yeah.
Springs, just because you're not close enough to all the like mountain activities. You're still gonna have to drive 2 hours to go skiing, and so everyone's just gonna stay in the mountain during that time period, which is just tricky for Colorado.
Yeah, unfortunately, the winter in like Denver and Colorado Springs just really sucks for short-term rentals, mid-term rentals. Yeah, I mean, some people are kind of surprised of how big of a seasonality it is. Obviously, if you're in more of like the mountains, it's actually a little bit different. Where the winter is potentially the peak season for you. Um, but yeah, I always found it kind of interesting. I mean, the demand just plummets right as it hits like October. It's crazy.
Yeah. Um, if anyone wants to reach out and ask any questions about you for short-term rentals or Airbnb arbitrage here in the Denver area, where can they reach out to you at?
Yeah, they can reach out. Either they can check out our website. Our company is called Lux Corporate Housing LLC. You can just look it up. You can send me an email at taylor@luxcorporatehousingllc.com, or you can message me on Instagram, Taylor with two R's .dt.
Awesome. And I'll put that in the show notes as well so people can find it. But thanks, Taylor. That was awesome. Lots of good information there about Airbnb arbitrage. So thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.